One of my most heart-rending experiences during the war was in a little town in Germany that we thought was perfectly safe. And my assistant gunner, L.B. Thiel, was with me, and we were sitting on in the edge of a foxhole. He had gotten a letter from his wife with a photograph of his 2 young children, and he handed it to me. And I looked at it and I thought it was just a very typical American family, and he was very happy to have that picture of them. And just as I was handing it back to him, a mortar shell exploded just outside our foxhole, and a piece of it hit me in the leg and caused a burn. Shrapnel hit him full blast and just shredded him. It just took his head off, and I didn't really stop and look at it. I just crawled out of the foxhole and went down to the aid station to see if they could do anything for my leg. But I felt so bad about that because the war was almost over. It was just within weeks of the German surrender. It was just a terribly tragic thing to have that happen. But I'm sure that his last thought was of his little family back in Louisiana. I remember one time we were in a forest, and there was a what they called a fire break. So if a forest got on fire, these breaks would be wide enough. They were probably about the length of a football field. We came up on this one, the whole squad did, and we wanted to cross it, and we came with the idea of what would be the best way to cross it. Would we all go at once, and then if he shot, he would probably get one of us. And if we went one at a time, he'd have to shoot at each one of us, and probably losing a target that way, he wouldn't have much chance. So anyway, we made the decision to go one at a time. So the first one went across, and then the next one came right after him, and by that time then he'd have to load his gun again and take the aim and shoot at him. Well, he missed him, and then he'd have to work his gun again and take a shot at the next one. He missed him, worked the gun again 5 times, I think. No, 6 times. There was one in the chamber on 5 other ones. And he had 6 times to get us, but he didn't get any of us. So that was a sniper that, about the only time I had a sniper. Mm-hmm. There was quite a bit of fighting going in a place called the Hurtgen Forest. That's Huertgen, the Hurtgen Forest, and that was in Belgium. And we went in there, and it was just a real dark, tree-shaded place. There had been some fighting there before, but the way we went through it, they would bring a tank in, and then they would spray the area with 50 caliber machine gun fire to keep the Germans down. And we would go through and try to occupy it, and it was just quite a bit of firing going on there. The worst part about it was the Germans would fire mortar shells, and they would set the fuses so that the shells would go off when they would hit trees, the tops of trees, and that shrapnel then would just spray down over the ground. I never got hit by any of it, but I was awful close to it most of the time. But that was the big danger going through there. After we'd been in there for several days, I don't know how long, we came to the edge of it, and there was a little town over there. So we went into that town, and there was a building that had been damaged some by artillery fire. And we moved in there because it was still habitable. We could still live in there. And then in the morning, I woke up and I had some sea rations, so I opened them for my breakfast. And as I was eating my breakfast, a German plane came over, and during the night, 2 tanks had rolled up on either side of that building, and that German warplane strafed those tanks first thing in the morning. Well, one of the bullets came through the bore above me, and it pierced the edge of my helmet and sprayed my face with fragments of shrapnel, probably from my helmet, maybe from the bullet, and it tore a gash in my right ear. I was just losing a lot of blood at that time. My ears really bled when they were wounded. So they took me to the battalion aid station, and the doctor there looked at it and he said, "We can't do anything here." He put a big bandage over my ear to keep it from bleeding, and they loaded me onto a Jeep. There was 4 of us, I think, on the Jeep. There was one laying on the hood on a stretcher, and 2 of us sitting in the back, and then the driver. And they took us out to where they could put us on an ambulance. The ambulance took us to Liège, Belgium, where there was a 77th evacuation field hospital set up. It was sort of like the MASH hospitals that you see on television. And they took us in there. When they saw the what wounds I had, they sent me to a plastic surgery section. So he explained what he was going to do. He was going to deaden that area with local anesthetic, and then he would dig out those little pieces of shrapnel that were in my face, and they would do the wound in my ear. They would suture it up so it would heal up. After we'd been there about, I'd say 8 or 10 days, the German counteroffensive through the Ardennes exploded, and of course the troops were being driven back, and so they very quickly took my stitches out, gave me a new helmet and a new rifle, and sent me back to the front. And then at daylight we had to move across a snow-covered field, and it was wrecked by machine gun fire all the time we were going across it. So we ran as fast as we could across that, and the bullets, tracer bullet, about every 6th bullet was a tracer bullet, and they came running right at us. It looked like they were coming right into us. We ran as fast as we could till we got across that snow-covered field. When we got across it, we found a little masonry building on the other side of it with a kind of an L-shaped place we thought would be a little bit safer from the machine gun fire. So we went in there for shelter. Well, we hadn't much more than gone in there till a German grenade came out of the window about two floors above us, and it exploded and wounded one of our men in the throat. It wasn't a deadly wound. He was bleeding quite a bit from it, and we took care of him. But then the German poked a submachine gun out of the window and started shooting at us. Well, my friend Sergeant Horvath said, "The window, shoot at the window. Every time that gun comes out, give it shoot it as fast as you can." So we did that, and it kept the machine gunner from poking his gun out of the window again, and we were relatively safe from that. And somehow they got word to a bazooka man, and he came up, and on one of the side windows he shot a bazooka into the building, and I think that stopped the skirmish at that time. Well, that night after the fighting wore down, while we bunked in a building there, and I took my backpack off, and there was a bullet hole right through my backpack, through my mess kit, and it was no longer usable, so I had to get a new mess kit. But that bullet had just missed my heart and lungs by that far, just a few inches. And so that's the 2 closest calls I had: the bullet that went through my helmet in the Hürtgen forest, and then that bullet that pierced pack in that German offensive. It was after the Battle of the Bulge. Then we were driving the Germans back into Germany. You just do what you have to do. You've been trained, you know, to go where they tell you to go and to do what you have to do to get through it. But I I don't know how to tell you. I was scared, and I said, like this book, I prayed a time or two when I was in it that I would get through it, but I knew I'd have to do whatever I had to do to carry out my mission and to be with the other soldiers and protect them, and you just have to do it.